Hey guys, Dr. Corey here. Welcome to Monday and your motivational mastery session. So I have a question for you. When you think about happiness, being happy, what comes up for you? Accomplishing something? A smile from your child, a loved one, a friend? Pizza? Your favorite meal? I think for myself, it would be all of those things combined. But today, I would like to dig into what I feel is really the foundation of a happy life, and that is being able to feel the full expanse of our emotions. All right? And we're going to dig into what I mean by that by focusing on binge eating. All right. Calling this one, if you want to avoid a binge, you must avoid avoidance. Okay. We're looking at binge eating and how to move into and through the urges, okay, without believing and falling into and falling prey to the urge. All right. So this past week, I received an email from a client who, when she started with me, she was binging probably a couple times a week at least, and really struggling to understand what was underneath her impulses, okay, that behavior. And we've really worked together to establish like new methods of responding to the urge. And guys, here's the thing. I view an urge is a thought. It's the thought that says, you should go eat, or, oh, that would be really good. And whatever planning goes on in your head to eat the food. That's the urge. An urge is the thought. It's like, imagine a thought bubble, okay? I sometimes too will call it a brain burp. And what do we do with burps? We forget about them, right? We belch, we hopefully say, excuse me, and then they're gone, okay? They dissipate. Use this as you're thinking about the thoughts you have that could potentially lead to a binge if you believe them. Now, my client understands how to do this, okay, responding to urges differently, and she's regularly meeting those thoughts with compassion rather than judgment. Oftentimes with my clients who are engaged in binge eating behavior, they're responding to the thoughts by getting angry, by feeling ashamed, like why do I keep having them? Am I ever going to be in a place where they're gone? How come I can't figure out how to move past this? And those sorts of thoughts push them into this kind of disappointed, shaming, lack of compassion place. And so my client has developed this process for acknowledging that an emotion is there or a thought is there that feels difficult, as opposed to trying to resist and push them away and avoid them. All right, so the first step in this, if you're listening, is recognition. Okay, I recognize that I have this thought, I had this urge, that there's this energy in my body that feels like a little bit of a sense of pressure to do something that even consciously I recognize isn't going to help me or be good for me. First step is recognition. So this client, she hadn't binged in 3 weeks, right? But here's what her email said to me. It said, the weekend didn't go well, Corey. I don't think I binged, but I definitely ate more than I needed to. And she's tracking her macros. She's wanting to lose some body fat. She said, I tried to distract myself. I tried to not give the thoughts power, but it was to the point where I was getting really anxious. And that hasn't happened to me in the past month, she said. It's been a struggle, but not like this. The thoughts just kept coming back stronger and stronger. I pulled it together on Sunday and I stuck to my macros, she said, but I really just felt like this tension all day long. I think I might have gotten my period today, she said. I haven't had it since February. So if it is an actual period, then maybe that contributed to that struggle, that tension. She said, I hope it is, so that I'm able to identify if this happens again. And she can recognize kind of similar symptoms. And I hope that then I can step away more effectively and examine it from that point. That would be my goal, she said. I just love that she's reflecting upon it. And even just in the way that she wrote her email to me, it was inquisitive. She was approaching it with curiosity as opposed to what's wrong with me and how come I can't do this. And I didn't hear the critic that I often heard in the very beginning with her. So, I wanted to share that with you and share with you what and how I responded to her. So I said, there's a few things here. When you are close to your period, it is normal to feel a bit more on edge, slightly more anxious, and then to feel as if you have a bit less self-control, and it may take a bit more effort to self-regulate in situations that, at any other time could feel quite easy or that you wouldn't even necessarily have to think about. So there's that. And then knowing that can really help you out and do a lot for working through and then offering yourself in that moment when you feel this discrepancy, some level of compassion to be able to say, okay, no, this feels a bit difficult and that's okay. Let's explore it a bit instead of this is terrible and I have to get away from it and what's wrong with me. You guys see the difference. The latter method, if you want to call it a method, really indicates getting caught up in the thoughts and the emotion, believing that we are failing or that we're not really doing something right, and that most commonly will just lead down a negative road, negative path, and you're likely to engage in behaviors that you're going to, at the end, feel pretty embarrassed about and ashamed of. The second thing that's important to consider, what I told her, is that distracting yourself is, in this situation, I felt just a substitute word for avoiding, okay? Pushing it away so we don't have to face it, we don't have to look at it to try to get away from the discomfort. And this makes a lot of sense, okay? Evolutionarily, we try to avoid pain. We try to avoid discomfort. We try to protect ourselves from those sorts of things. In the practical world, that makes sense. Like, don't touch a hot stove. But when the pain is internal, okay, it's going to come back. What we consciously try to resist and move away from is going to persist unless we recognize it and then acknowledge that it's there. So thoughts will take on more power when we distract ourselves from them or try to avoid them. So the key is not to avoid, like I said, we have a new A word, okay, that we're implementing. It's to acknowledge. And acknowledging doesn't mean that the thoughts won't keep coming back. I think this is an important piece to remember. It's like a lot of times I think people engage in meditation or mindfulness to get away from the monkey mind, okay? The jumping around thoughts always have something filling our minds. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to learn how to respond to the monkey mind differently and to become the observer of the mind instead of getting caught up in what's in there, being able to look at it just like the thoughts are clouds in the sky and see what they're doing, see where they lead, see where they go, or just to notice, okay? And really to acknowledge whether they are having an effect on us. But so it also means that when we can view them from that perspective as an observer of our minds, they're not going to carry the same intensity, okay? It means that we can meet them and respond to them differently. Like an emotion, if you imagine an emotion ringing your doorbell at home, there's an emotion at the door, and you answer it and you say, "Hi." How are you? That's what we need to do with our emotions, and we can do those with our thoughts too. We can talk back to them. And this is not crazy. This is actually very healthy. You can imagine thoughts and emotions being like weather too. We have thoughts that can feel sometimes, or emotions can feel sometimes like there's a massive downpour that happens all of a sudden. And then we have some emotions or thoughts that feel just like a light sprinkle. We can go stand in that rain, and we can be pissed off the entire time, and we can say, I hate this, and make ourselves more miserable trying to get out of it or avoid it. Or we can go stand in it and twirl around and laugh and think about how that rainwater is going to make our hair very soft. And, so as a foundation to happiness, it really, really does behoove us to learn how to accept and acknowledge, and I'm going to say embrace and admire that we have the capacity as humans to feel such a broad expanse of emotion. It's a really wonderful thing. But, I asked her which approach, the avoidance, push away, don't talk to me, like what's wrong with me that I'm having it, or on the other side of the coin, welcome, okay, I don't have to like you. This doesn't have to be something that I want in my life, but you're here, and so now how will I respond? Those two different responses. I asked her, which do you think is going to help you more? Which do you think is going to help you feel more engaged in life, to feel a greater level of intelligence and control and a sense of regulation? Okay. I let her know, I'm super proud of you. Because here's the thing, we can take any one of these experiences as an opportunity to learn. I said to her, even if she didn't eat within her ranges, okay, she didn't binge. She didn't go down the path that she had before. She didn't perpetuate that habit that was hurting her in so many ways, psychologically and physically. And, here's a suggestion to you guys, if this is something you struggle with around your periods, ladies. If around your period you feel that increased sense of hunger, appetite, think about having a floating meal. And I call it a floating meal because it's a meal that's out here if we might need it, okay? And to me, that's not weakness if we need it. It's prudent planning based on what we've learned about ourselves and what we've listened to our bodies telling us. So, that's looking at the circumstances, and instead of being mad at them, like, why do I have to be so hungry around my period, and wishing they were different, to, okay, so here's reality. What might this look like if I just take responsibility for it? If I plan prudently and wisely, okay, based on what's here. So I hope this helps, guys. Foundation of happiness, being able to feel and acknowledge and admire and respect the full range of emotions that we have, and we can apply this to any area of our lives that we're struggling with. And in this instance, it was binge eating. So you want to avoid a binge? Avoid avoidance. Thanks, guys.